Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tanya Files. Okay, so here's an example that I hope will help people understand that you really shouldn't say the phrase, the dog isn't going to hurt you. I've heard that my entire life, but here's something that this is the part that doesn't make sense to me, because when people would say all the time that you can't read a person's mind, well, then how do you know a dog isn't going to hurt somebody? You can't read a dog's mind either. So anyway, this story takes place at an animal shelter that my mom volunteers at. And the shelter is always looking for volunteers, but since I have a dog phobia, I cannot obviously help. I would actually prefer to volunteer at a soup kitchen or something like that. But unfortunately we don't have anything like that close to where I am. But, yeah, my mom said that she would get to know all the dogs that were at the shelter, and she said that some of them were kind of hyper, which, that always makes me uncomfortable. But, my mom would always say, oh, they're good dogs, they wouldn't hurt anybody. Well, there's this one volunteer, his name is John. He is at the animal shelter, I think, more than anybody. And he's basically like the lead volunteer, basically. And one day, both John and a female volunteer were out in the back with a few of the dogs. And everything was going fine. They were just talking and nothing out of the ordinary. But then all of a sudden, two of the dogs started attacking John. And I'm not just saying one bite and it's over. No, they were ripping him up. And he literally did nothing. And neither did the female volunteer. They were just attacking him out of the blue. And, they were trying to get the dogs to let go of him because they were obviously hurting him pretty badly. The only way he could get the dogs to let go is by grabbing his gun and shooting it up in the air. Now, my mom wasn't at the shelter when this took place, which those two dogs are lucky, because if it was my mom that they were attacking, we'll just leave it at that. But, yeah, that would have been the biggest mistake of their lives. But anyway, my mom told me about this story when she found out about it, and John, the volunteer, I don't know how old he is. He's, I don't know. I've only seen him once, though, so I don't know how old he is, but I heard he had to go to the hospital. He had to have surgery. He was ripped up pretty badly from what I heard. And the dogs were not teased or intimidated or anything. It just happened right out of the blue. And then when my mom was telling me that story, she was like, I don't understand what went wrong. I've known those two dogs. They wouldn't hurt anybody. So to anyone who used to say the phrase, the dog isn't going to hurt you, this story alone just proved all of you wrong. Because like I said, my mom said that those two dogs have never hurt anybody. But then, when they were outside with John and the female volunteer, And literally nothing happened that would intimidate them. They just started ripping him up out of the blue for no reason. And so I said to Mom, are those two dogs still at the shelter? And Mom's like, oh no, they were put down. And I was like, really? And she was like, well, yeah, because you don't know if they would end up attacking somebody again. Which, by the way, I knew that. I was just trying not to be insensitive, because the thing about me is that when a dog attacks somebody and they're put down, I do not feel bad for the dog at all. You know, and I know some people, there were a few people who would judge me about that, but you know, it's like, I think they are the ones who need to learn that the phrase, the dog isn't going to hurt you, is a lie. It may not apply to all dogs, but, you know, you gotta learn something new from this. And also, I also want to put it out there that both John and the female volunteer were not afraid of dogs. So it's not like they could sense their fear and took advantage of it or anything. So what made those dogs all of a sudden attack John like that? I have no idea. I don't think anybody knows. But at least those two dogs can't hurt anyone ever again. And I will say this though. Even though I don't like dogs, I have heard about how dog owners are too lazy to get their dogs either spayed or neutered. But when they have puppies, they basically like drop them off at the shelter like that. Like, seriously, I don't know how expensive it is to have this done to your pets, but seriously, you know, if you don't want them to have babies, then have your pets spayed or neutered, okay? Because from what I've heard, the shelter is always full. Sometimes it's overfilled, actually. So, yeah. But I think John did make a full recovery. I don't know how many stitches he had to have put in, but, I mean, I'm just thankful that it wasn't my mother that they did that to. And plus, I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody, obviously. But, you know, that's part of the reason why I don't want to volunteer at the shelter. You know, I don't like it when dogs are loose around me, and, you know, I just feel happier and safer when dogs are not around me. And to anyone who can't understand that, well, it's a shame that you're not open-minded enough to realize that. Because I'm pretty sure you have a phobia. Because everyone is afraid of something. How would you feel if someone judged your phobia or your fear? Like, let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, if you're afraid of spiders. Okay? You know, that is a common phobia. A lot of people have it. With my vision disability, it is hard for me to see spiders. But like, say for example, if I saw one, like, crawling up the wall or something. I mean, yeah, it would freak me out a little bit. But I really wouldn't consider it a phobia, though. It's really just more of my dislike for bugs and stuff like that. Even though they do help get rid of flies and stuff, but, you know. And to be honest, I want to put people who judge my phobia in their place, okay? So, let's pretend that the people who criticize my dog phobia have a fear of spiders, okay? I mean, I could be that person who could say, well, you know, I mean, it's not such a big deal. You could just spray the spider or hit it with your shoe or hit it with a newspaper and boom, it's dead. But you can't do that with a dog. I mean, yeah, it is true that spiders are easy to get rid of. But you can't do those things to get rid of spiders. You know, you can't do those things to get rid of dogs. So, now does that mean that my dog phobia is, like, should be taken more seriously than someone who's afraid of spiders? No. I just say that, you know, if you think it's weird that I have a dog phobia, then just think of it like your fear of spiders. Just pretend the dog is the spider. You know, and I know some people that they would be like confused on why I'm not sad when a dog in the family dies. It only happened once when I was sad when a dog in the family died, because like I said in my previous videos, she was actually one of those dogs who did not take advantage of my phobia. It was actually the exact opposite. And I wish all dogs were like that, because then I wouldn't have this phobia. But anyway, whenever a dog in the family died, I was not sad. I was sad for my relatives because they were hurt. But was I sad that the dog died? No. Because depending on if I was around it when I never wanted it to be, you know, I mean, let me put it in another way so that just in case if you can't understand. Let's say you find out that there's a mouse in your home, okay? You don't like mice. You don't want it around you or touching anything that you have, you know, and then you find out that the mouse was trapped in a mouse trap. Are you sad that the mouse died? No. So, dogs to me are like a mouse in your home, or like if you have a fear of spiders. You know, it's just a different kind of fear. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not ashamed of my dog phobia. I just prefer to not be around dogs. And to anyone who can't understand that, well, you need to be more open-minded. Because I don't judge people's fears. Everyone is afraid of something. And as far as that old phrase, "Oh, a dog is a man's best friend," which was another ridiculous phrase I would hear my entire life. I actually used to be a smart aleck when I was a kid, because when my grandma would say that to me, I would say, "Well, I'm not a man." She did not like it when I said that. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's not true. No. Mm-mm. Yeah, so, yeah, I put a couple of different examples in this video, but yeah, I think it made a good episode. So, let me know what you think about this. I mean, I'm glad that John made a full recovery, and, you know, people need to learn from this, you know. Alright, and as a closing, like I said earlier, help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. Rest in peace, Bob Barker. I'll see you guys in the next episode.